Hi everyone, I'm Wee Kee. My name is Wee Kee Toh. I'm the business architect for Onyx Coin Systems. I look at how we design our business and product capabilities as we are looking at, sorry, I just realized I need to click through. Yeah. As we are looking at developing the next generation financial ecosystems. So I joined Onyx about a year ago. I moved recently to New York about 6 months back. Actually, before Onyx, I was at the Monetary Authority of Singapore, where I was leading Project Ubin on wholesale CBDCs, and subsequently, I was seconded to the BIS Innovation Hub, working on Project Damba on multi-CBDCs. So my history has always been working very much on the CBDC, central bank digital currencies part of it. It's really exciting for me now to be here at Onyx because the past 6 years or so, I've been doing a lot of experiments, but what we are doing at Onyx now are live and at scale. And I'll explain to what scale that we are at today, and that's probably quite interesting for some of you guys over here. So Onyx, we have been live for more than 2 years, probably going to about 3 years now. For our clients, we actually saw transaction value of more than 300 billion last year in 2022. So that's actually quite a sizable amount. I mean, compared to the total size of what we do from cross-border payments perspective, it's probably a small fraction. I mean, it is good news for us. It means that we do have a lot of room to grow. But it also shows that actually what we are doing is already live and real. Today, we transact about $1 billion in value daily. From our clients' perspective, they are able to do transactions across our major funding locations, like between, say, Singapore, London, and New York, in less than 120 seconds. So 120 seconds is the number that my legal said we should put it there. But in actual fact, most of the time, it's like you click a transaction, you click refresh, you see that it's already done. So actually, the technology does allow us to bring things to a different level, and I'll explain a bit more about why we are able to do that. Oh, and one important thing, one of our clients actually said that they have seen liquidity cost savings of about 10%. So it's not just about a cool technology. It actually brings real benefits to our customers. Before I go into just explaining about what we are doing on Coin and on Patio, I do want to give an overview about generally how we see the evolution of digital currencies, the stepwise measures that we are taking to eventually bring us to this ultimate vision. If you look at from bottoms up, we talk about shared ledger technology. That's really the core behind what we are doing over here. If you think about it, it's really the underlying blockchain platform and our application that we deploy on the blockchain platform for the purposes of digital currency transaction. We have implemented it first as a single bank ledger. That's what we call JP Morgan Coin. What I was mentioning about just now, what we are doing in terms of like daily transaction volume of more than $1 billion. That is live in production today. We have clients who are largely large multinational companies who are using our platform. But of course, you'll be wondering, so, blockchain technology, ultimately, this is about multiple banks. This is about decentralization. What's the point of deploying it within just your own environment? The vision for us is actually working towards a multi-bank ledger. That is what we call Patio. But before we are able to do that, we have to first build the technology within what regulators are comfortable with, within what our compliance folks are actually comfortable with, which is why we took the technology, use it to link up our different branches across different systems internally. So at least this is within JP Morgan's environment. And from that perspective, we are able to get people, regulators, our internal compliance, comfortable with this idea of using blockchain technology and how we can use it to connect multiple participants together. In our case, for JP Morgan Coin, they are still internal participants. The next step is really looking at this idea of a shared ledger, which we did in Patio. Patio is a joint venture between JP Morgan, DBS Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and Temasek. What it is essentially this multi-bank ledger where we are able to issue digital currencies on the platform itself such that everyone is able to transact directly with each other. I'll go into a bit more details later of what that actually means and why it brings about benefits. One of the presenters just now talked about why blockchain. This is really one of the good use cases of blockchain where it is a multi-bank platform. And eventually, our vision is really towards this view of a universal or unified ledger, a ledger where there are multiple different assets, multiple different currencies. That's when you start to see really interesting things happening, like the whole idea of atomic settlement, of composability, where essentially decentralized applications on a common blockchain platform are able to interact seamlessly with each other. The other point which I wanted to make is that if you look at our whole journey, I mean, we talk about, I mentioned that we have been live for more than 2 years, but actually the journey started a lot earlier. So even before Onyx was formed, we had this Blockchain Center of Excellence, and that was a vehicle of which we used to start doing experiments with a lot of different parties. We did Project Ubin with MAS. I was actually on the MAS side back then. Onyx was one of the big contributors towards the project. That was back in 2016. It was a multi-phase project. We really understand, through working with the industry about what the technology is best suited to do, what are some of the benefits that we can get from the technology. So in parallel, there was this set of work with the industry, and we were also developing our JP Morgan coin, which eventually went live. Project Damba was another collaboration with multiple central banks. Project Damba was especially interesting because if you think about the underlying model, what we are doing with Patio is identical to this idea of a multi-CBDC. Because the only difference is that on Patio, these are commercial bank money, the issuers are settlement banks. So you have the likes of like JP Morgan for US dollar, DBS Bank for Sing dollar, and we issue currencies for participants to transact with. In Project Damba, what it was central banks actually issuing CBDC. So from a technical perspective, the model was directly replicated. We were actually able to show that, hey, the idea of multi-CBDCs actually work. And from a universal ledger perspective, this is where we did work with MAS, on Project Guardian, on Project Orchid, where we started looking at this idea of deposit tokens. Deposit tokens are not live. We think that there's a lot of interesting things that can happen through deposit tokens, but at the same time, from a regulatory framework perspective, we do need additional clarity before we are comfortable with actually bringing it to the next step. So talking very specifically about JP Morgan coin itself, if you look from left to right, what are some of the benefits that our clients are actually able to get from using JP Morgan coin? So we allow for 24/7 real-time transfers across borders. What it means is that if we have clients in Singapore, they are able to transact, they are able to move funds to New York any time of the day, and it will take place almost instantly. This is very useful because traditionally or conventionally, before we have this idea of 24/7 real-time cross-border payments, what typically happens is that there is very little overlaps in operating hour between Singapore and New York. So in many situations, if you are looking at cross-border payments, it's typically at least a T+1. What it means is that from a treasury perspective, you need to do forecasting, you need to move funds ahead in anticipation of your actual needs. Now, once you are able to move funds any time of the day, you actually do away with the whole idea of forecasting because funds are available anytime. If I need funds in Singapore, I draw it from my account in US, in New York, in London. I can move funds anywhere. I do away with forecasting altogether. I do away with the need to pre-fund my accounts in all the different locations in anticipation of needs that may or may not happen. This is really the reason why I mentioned about the 10% liquidity savings for one of our clients who is a large e-commerce player, because previously they would have needed to keep all these pools of liquidity in different locations. They are able to stop doing that and just move funds as and when they need to. The other really interesting thing that we are looking at is really from a programmable payments perspective. There should be some announcement coming out in a couple of days, couple of weeks. That will be something really interesting. So if you think about programmable payments, now previously, so the idea of programmable payments are not that new, because if you think from a treasury management perspective, you do use like ERP system, treasury management systems, but how it works is that it pulls data from the banks, check for account balances and say, okay, I need to move certain funds, and then they push an instruction to the banks to move those funds itself. What we are able to do is that we take the logic from the treasury management system and deploy it within our bank's environment, which means that there's a set of programmable instructions that is just waiting there checking balances, and if balances fall below a certain predefined amount, is actually able to then evaluate from which account should I draw these funds from, and subsequently actually initiate the actual payment itself. So all of these things take place again in real time within our environment, and that actually provides a lot of efficiency gains for our customer. Programmable payments is something that is pretty new. Not everyone is able to have the expertise to take advantage of it yet. So we do see customers that still want to connect with us from a more conventional perspective. We are able to allow connection through various different connectivity means, whether they are APIs, through Swift connectivity messages, or even UI. We do allow all of these different channels today. And on top of that, we provide real-time visibility so that our clients at any point in time can know what is the status of their transaction, what is the status of their balances. This is just a map to just show you, these are the major funding locations that we have today, and we are able to move funds real-time, 24/7 between these different locations. The other thing which I want to talk more about is really the idea of patio. So I mentioned briefly just now, when we think about JP Morgan Coin, it is still within a single environment. When we think about blockchain technology, why does blockchain make payments cheaper, safer, faster? You hear that all the time. No one really explains why. The reason why we are able to do that is because we are able to bring parties onto a common platform, and that is what helps to essentially flatten the payment, flatten the ledgers and shorten the payment chains. Now, if you think about traditional cross-border payments, you typically go through multiple different hops. With each hop, there's an intermediary processing transaction that adds to overheads. Overheads results in additional time, additional cost. If you are able to flatten all of that, we put everyone on a single ledger. That is how we gain the efficiencies. So why blockchain technology? Because traditionally, if you try to build this shared platform, who will actually operate the platform? Now, we talk about, on this platform itself, there's JP Morgan, DBS, Standard Chartered. If this was a traditional system, how do we, decide who will actually operate it? So the solution over here is very simple. All of us operate it. We each operate a node so that we are comfortable with what is being recorded on this common platform. At the same time, on this platform itself, we are able to deploy our own applications. The applications are secure. You never have to worry about someone else actually tampering with your application. That is really why we see value over here in using blockchain technology to bring multiple parties onto a common platform. So in Patio, we are part of it. We are live on Patio today. Again, probably you'll hear something more in the next couple of days. Patio is really a platform that we feel will greatly simplify cross-border payments, make it much cheaper and faster for banks to do transactions with in the future. I'm not going to go into much details on this slide. I just thought I'll end with something that looks really cool. We are building the foundation of for the future of money. If you guys have any questions, happy to take some questions. If not, then that's the end of my sharing. Thank you so much.